Good evening, good evening.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, hello, Amilcar. Good to hear your voice.
How are you, Bill?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Hanging in there.
It's about all we can hope for these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm supposed.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. That's true.
To be on vacation, though.
hmm
But I'm here, which is the most important thing.
Well, yes, it is. Absolutely. But it's also important that you get that time off as well.
Yeah. Well, I have to fly. I'm gonna fly tomorrow to Puerto Rico because
hmm
unfortunately, two members of my family just passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. My elder aunt
hmm
passed on Monday, and another cousin passed yesterday.
Oh boy, that's pretty tragic week. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, they were both of them were kind of sick and very delicate in
Uh,
terms of health. So we were expecting those, but
yeah,
again, it's kind of difficult. You never expect somebody to go that fast.
that's true. Even when it's even when it does seem, you know, sort of, one of those events any day now kind of situation, it doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah.
So my condolences definitely to you and your family. That's an unfortunate thing, and hate to have to travel for those kind of reasons.
But again, that's life.
Yep, that is. You're right. You're right.
Yep, that's part of the process.
It is. It is
But
unavoidable, right?
yeah,
That and
that's
tax.
unavoidable. All
That and
of us,
taxes.
we're gonna end up in those.
That's true.
So
That
how have
is
you
true.
been, Bill?
Well, geez, I think I should have gone first. I think I've been doing all right. It's just been we've been getting a degree of that Florida heat up here in Massachusetts, and I fully blame Dr. Carla Padalano. she
Okay.
is she's responsible because she was taunting Dr. Veens and teasing her about the hot weather and the humidity, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a heat wave. So that is
Okay.
clearly her fault.
I know you've been very busy.
We have yes, we've all been very busy. It's that time of year where we're ramping up for fall, and this is a big one with the transition to Canvas. So we're making sure that everything is ready to go. We had that interruption the other day for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Thankfully, things are back up and running now, and we fixed the issue. So I think we're moving in the right direction for
Good.
fall.
That's very important. Very, very important.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone on the call. If you're in Canvas, I know Dr. Wolke you are, and appreciate the patience. Ricardo was quite happy when that was back up and running.
That's important. How you doing, Dr. Welke?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great.
I was hearing what you say. Yes, the thing is that the problem is not about me; it's about the student. You know, the students sometimes they are missing some assignment, but when Canvas went down, oh my God!
I know. This is.
They started on Saturday night. And I told them, listen, I cannot do anything. You may wait till Monday. Oh, but professor, please, because it will be late.
Nothing's late if no one can access it. That's what I told. That's what I told
Yeah.
my class. Is I said, don't worry about it. Nothing is late if no one can access it. So,
Yeah.
this is another instance where I've been on the academic or administrative side of things when these go down. Previously, I'd been on the student services side, and yes, when Canvas went down on the student services side, I always used to joke, "Oh, geez, I think I'm coming down with a cold. I think I have to take some sick time and, and step away."
Wow.
Thankfully,
Well, it's 6 o'clock.
I'm going.
I see people still connecting. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wait like 5 more minutes and then we're gonna start.
Perfect. I've assigned the host duties over to you, so you should see those controls. And whenever you're ready to start, go right ahead.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Of course. Series 5.
I'll be back. I'll be back next Wednesday. So
Wonderful.
as soon as I get back home, I'll let you know.
That sounds great, and then I hope that it's a safe flight and then as good a trip as it can be with the reason that you're traveling. But hopefully it's nice anyways. Nice to see family. Nice to at least have that healing time together.
Yeah, it's been 3 years since I've been down there. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. All right. Okay, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We are in the middle of the week. And I'm Professor Amilcar Jimenez, and I'm really, really glad and very happy that you joined me in this final webinar, Series 5 of the IRB. It is important for you to understand that these seminars, this information, it's extremely important for all of us. The reason is because IRB, if we do something wrong, we can be out of compliance, and that's not a good sign. Okay, so I really appreciate that you came in and take all these 5 seminars. If somebody needs to refresh, the recordings are available now. And if you need to take, if you miss one of the seminars, please go ahead and talk to your director, your academic director. In your case, Dr. Woelki, if your faculty miss any of these seminars, you can make a list and send me that list, and I'll be more than happy to accommodate a special session for those persons who miss these one of these seminars. But it's very important that everybody being trained overall, all the faculty that teach any research course.
Okay.
Okay. Today, in our last view, in our last series, we're gonna start. Does everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So we're gonna talk today about the levels of review that we in the IRB has. Okay. And this is very important because sometimes our students get very creative and they want to do everything, try to discover the world again. But it is important for us to know, to understand what levels we are going to be evaluating. Okay, so as usual, any questions that you have, you may write it on the chat or put your hands up, and I'll be more than happy to answer those. And let's gonna start with a little of a general information. Ana G. Mendez University, as you know, we use the Innovative Solution for Compliance and Research Management platform, which is the IRB Net. That's what we use to work with our research. It is very important that we understand that IRB approval must be obtained before any procedure, study, or research activity commence. There is no retroactive approval for previous collected data. And of course, failure to seek data prior commence to the research may invalidate the study, which of course will result in the delay of in the graduation and in the processes of the students. So we need to be very aware of this. Some terminology, and this is kind of a review because we have spoke of these before. Protocol. Every time you hear the word protocol for the Institutional Review Board, protocol is defined as the research proposal that is presented for evaluation and approval. Okay, research. The Code of Federal Regulations defines research as a systematic study, including the development, testing, and evaluation that is designated or designed, to contribute to increase generalizable, that words always give me a hard time, generalizable knowledge. Belmont Report, on the other side, defines research as the activity assigned to test a hypothesis and allow conclusions to be drawn. Human subjects. According to the federal regulations, human subject is defined as a living thing from which an investigator can obtain data through intervention or interaction, either individual or private identifiable information. Private information. Code of Federal Regulations define it as information about a behavior that occurs in a context in which an individual can reasonably expect that no observation or recording is taking place, or any information that has been provided for a specific purpose by any individual And that information, that individual expects that that information can be reasonably not to be made public. Example of that, public school records. Identifiable private information. In this case, the Code of Federal Regulations defines identifiable private information as behavioral information that occurs in a context in which any individual can reasonably expect that no observation is taking place, such as in a public restroom, information provided for specific purposes by an individual and they can reasonably expect not to be made public, healthcare records. That's why when, for example, a student sent a protocol and that student wants to see the effects of X, Y, and Z disease or health situation through medical records, we start to double check those, and I rather prefer not to go there, okay? But of course, now with our doctorate programs, we're gonna have some of those. It doesn't mean that we cannot, the student cannot do that as a research. It can. However, the level of security, the level of confidentiality, the venues to obtain and maintain those confidentialities, security, and safety, not only from the participants, but for the information should be extremely, extremely high, okay? Identifiable is any information that contains one or more data elements, like Social Security, okay? And it could be a combination of those. Privacy. Privacy can be defined in terms of having control over the scope, time, and circumstances of sharing oneself with others. Could be physically, behaviorally, or intellectually. On the other hand, confidentiality refers to the treatment of the information that a person has disclosed in a relationship of trust. Interaction. Interaction includes any communication or interpersonal contact between an investigator and a research subject. Intervention includes both physical procedures by which information or biospecimens are gathered, like venipuncture, and manipulations of the subject or subject's environment that are performed for research purposes. Risk. The Code of Federal Regulations define risk as the probability of harm or injury, either physical, psychological, social, or economic, that could occur as a result of participation in a study or a research. This is also very important for us to be clear when we talk to our students in terms of risks. Every study has a risk, but it's our task is to keep that risk as minimum as possible. But every study do have, right now you're having a risk, minimum risk, which is the risk that that everybody has when they're taking a seminar. You can become tardiness, you can have you can become bored, you can have your eyes could be like very tired. Okay, but those are risks, minimum, but they are. Vulnerable population, and this is also extremely important. Try to avoid our students to work with one of these populations. However, I do know for a fact that at doctoral level overall in the nursing program, the doctorate program, the mostly the DNP, they used to work with vulnerable population. Vulnerable population are those people, those persons who cannot completely understand the information related to a study and cannot give certain kind of consent. It may include people with psychiatric problems, cognitive problems, developmental disorders, or drug addicts. The Code of Federal Regulation has specifically defines these groups of vulnerable population: pregnant women, fetuses and neonates, disabled people, prison population, elderly people, and children and minors. Elderly is classified as everybody 67 years over. Okay, that's what we consider elderly people, 67 over, and children and minor, everyone that has 17 or less. In those cases, if you're gonna use this kind of population, you not only need the consent of the parents or legal guardians, but you also need the assent of the children. Pregnant women, fetuses, and neonates are considered vulnerable because they may be at higher risk than others, and we should have special protections, mostly oriented towards medical research than social and behavioral. Prison populations are considered vulnerable because they may be under limitations to their incarceration. Forensic data. It's considered vulnerable, although this is not a population, it's also part of the elements that we need to overlook when we are doing a research. Okay, these can include identifiable information like medical records, police records. All those kind of things could be forensic data and could be classified as vulnerable. Children and minors are considered vulnerable because they may not be able to fully understand the information presented about or regarding a study or research. Disabled people are considered vulnerable as they can be impaired due to physical or mental disability or the inability to take care for themselves. Elderly are considered vulnerable for the reason that they may be under limitations due to their age or medical condition. Questions up to here? Up to here, we've been reviewing information.
Amilcar, I think that we will need this PowerPoint because it is a lot of information, the difference between the thing that you explained. So I think that we will need it.
I do understand, Dr. Welke. These will be available eventually. It will be available. I'm trying to gather all of them so you can have it, and it will be available through Canvas.
Okay, but it is not yet, right?
No,
the other one. Okay, perfect.
No, not yet. It's going to be available through Canvas.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But if you need something, or you need anyone over here needs to, for me, if you're teaching a class and you need to explain these to the students, you can contact me and I'll be more than happy to join in a conference call or through Teams and explain these to your students. Okay, so feel free to send me an email and we can coordinate that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now, what is considered research? And this is very interesting because sometimes people say, but this is not a research. or no, I don't have to do this, or I don't need to go through the IRB because this is not a research. Well, let's see what the federal regulation says is considered a research. The federal regulation established that any study that involves human subject to test or develop products or materials that have been developed through the research for a human use. That's the first thing. It is also considered research any study that uses private information that can be easily identified with individuals, that aim to produce generalizable knowledge about categories or classes of information topics and individual identification, any study that involves retrospective analysis of private, individually identifiable and existing information, or that use bodily materials like cells, blood, urine, tissues, organs, hair, nails, okay? Even if those are not collected for research purposes. Also, the collection of data through any intervention or interaction with a human subjects, including but not limited to evaluation of teaching methods and programs, internet surveys or on alcohol consumptions, studies involving deception, investigation of risk behaviors or attitudes, and open interviews with minors about family values in a foreign country, which contributes to generalizable knowledge. Also, the use of human subjects to evaluate environmental alterations, such as air conditioning options or environmental modifications. There is a case, and this comes because back in the days, Germans tested with the Jews. German tested, they throw the Jews outside on winter without any clothing to see how they react to the cold weather. So it is very important for us to understand this. Now, what is not considered, before we go to what is not considered research, if you're gonna do any observations, that is considered a research. If you have an education class from the education department, and the student wants to do observation on a classroom to children, that is considered research. Okay, now, what is not considered research? The Code of Federal Regulation has established that the following activities are deemed not to be classified as a research: scholarly or journalistic activities like oral history, journalism, biography, literary criticisms, legal research, and historical scholarship, including collection and use of information that focus directly on the specific individuals about whom the information is collected. Collection and analysis of information by specimens or records by or for a criminal justice agency for activities authorized by law or court order solely for criminal justice or criminal investigative purposes. Authorized operational activities in support of intelligence, homeland security, defense, or other national security missions. Also, any public health surveillance activities, including collection and testing of information or biospecimen conducted, supported, requested, ordered, required, or authorized by a public health authority are deemed not to be research. That could be include, such activities are limited to those necessary to allow public health authorities to identify, monitor, assess, or investigate potential public health signals, like disease outbreaks, like for example, the COVID situation, the pox, ¿cómo se llama? De estos que están ahora que le dicen las verrugas del mono, los monkeypox. Okay. Activities also include those associated with providing timely situational awareness and priority setting during the course of an event or crisis that threaten public health. And that include natural and man-made disasters. Other activities that are not considered research includes operational activities and practices in medicine, psychology, or social work or public health, like routine outbreak investigations and disease monitoring. Studies of internal management for internal management purposes, such as program evaluations, quality control, fiscal or program audits, marketing studies, or contracted services, journalism, and political polling. Nevertheless, if some of these activities may include or constitute research, when they are when there is a clear intention to contribute to generalizable knowledge, meaning if you're gonna do this for your own, that's okay, that's not a research. But if you're gonna publish the results, that will constitute a research then. Data collection of internal departments, schools, or other institutional administrative purpose, like teachers or faculty evaluation, customer service surveys, those are not considered research unless you're gonna use those information to contribute to a generalizable knowledge. Information gathering interviews, where question focuses primarily on products or policies and not on people or their thoughts. Okay, for example, you want to determine if the lighting in the library it's good. Okay, that's not considered research, because you're gonna ask questions regarding lighting. Okay, know the thoughts of the people. Meaning, you can ask, for example, you can ask, do you think lighting in the library is good? Yes or no? Do you think we can place more lamps? Yes or no? Now, the moment that you said, how do you feel with, that will constitute then a research, because you're asking for people's thoughts. Activities related to specific designed courses for education or teaching purposes. Okay, for example, and these I have had these questions a lot. Professor, I send my students to gather data in regards of buying habits of the population. And I'm gonna ask you, that data will be used for other than the class? No, it's just only for the class. That will not constitute a research per se, but you need to fill out a form, and the IRB should approve, meaning or intending and certifying that information, that's a regular practice for that course to obtain that information. Okay. Any questions up to here?
I do have a question. You mentioned if you're going to get the opinion of people, that would be considered research. But what if that question is asked as part of the class and not to be published? I think I'm debating there. Is it still considered research or not research? Because if it's going to be used for the class only, it's not research. But which one will take the most importance there to be considered research?
If you're going to use that information to contribute to the generalizable information or knowledge, you're going to publish that, you're going to use that to do X, Y, or Z, that will constitute a research. But if it's only for class purpose, it's not. Do I answer your question?
Yeah, so basically the purpose of what the information is going to be used for, or the purpose of that information will be what will determine, even if you get opinion from people, since it's going to be used just for the class, then it's not considered research.
It's correct. My best recommendation, Professor, is if you have your doubts in terms of you have to be sure, you want to be sure, don't hesitate to holler me, okay? To send me an email. We can set call me, and I'll be more than happy.
Yeah, we did it for mine. I was just a little bit confused in that, just in the future if I get another course like that, because it could be contradictory. But if it's just the purpose of the information that you get, what determines if it's research or not, then I'm clear there.
Exactly. Depend on the purpose of the use of that information.
Correct. Thanks.
Okay. Nevertheless, we need to be very careful where and when we're going to ask that information.
Correct.
Because the person could not gather, should not, or I should say, must not gather that information, for example, on a public restroom. Okay. So that's a no matter what. All right. Okay. Levels of review for the IRB. How we review, the IRB reviewed your protocols, and how we determine the approval or not of that protocol. Well, IRB has 4 different levels. The first one is the administrative review protocols. These kind of protocols usually includes literature reviews or case studies that do not present identifiable or sensitive information nor use any human subjects. Okay. These kind of protocols involves working, do not involve working with human subjects, and the risk is minimum or less than minimum. And of course, do not require any continuous review from the IRB. Evaluation on this protocol is internal, meaning that we evaluate those protocols by one person. And the evaluation could take anything between 1 and 3 business days. Second level of evaluation is exempt. Exempt review protocols involve studies that have direct contact with human subjects or identifiable data. The risk is considered minimal, and they do not work with vulnerable populations. Exempt protocols are usually assessed by a member of the committee, and the evaluation takes anything between 3 to 5 business days. Usually, the exempt review does not require an ongoing review by the IRB unless the project is modified in such a way that it no longer meets the exemption criteria. And it has happened before. The Code of Federal Regulations has established 8 different categories for exception review protocols. The first one are those research in an established or commonly accepted educational settings involving normal educational practices. Category number 2 are those research that only include educational tests, surveys, interviews, public observation, if at least one of the following criteria is met. The recorded information cannot easily be identifiable. Any disclosure or answers outside of the investigation would not put any subject at a reasonable risk, or the information is recorded with identifiers and the IRB conducts a limited review. Category number 3 are those research involving benign behavioral interventions through written, verbal responses, including data entry or audiovisual recording from adult subjects who prospectively agreed on information recorded, that the information recorded cannot easily identify the subject, that any disclosure or responses outside the investigation would not put the subject at any risk, and the information is recorded with identifiers and the IRB is conducting a limited review. This is very important for us to understand. Sometimes our student says, okay, I'm gonna do this focus group and I'm gonna record. IRB does not have any problem at all if you want to record. However, the moment that you said that you're gonna record either sound or video, automatically that protocol is classified as an exempt review. Okay? And of course, IRB will be very, very, very pointing in terms of how the confidentiality and the privacy and safety of the participants and the data will be conducted. Okay? Again, it's not that you cannot do it, that the students cannot do it, they can. But they have to be very careful and clearly explain how they're gonna protect those subjects and information. Category number 4 includes any secondary research for which consent is not required, the use of personally identifiable or bio-specifically identifiable information that has been collected or is being collected for some other primary or initially activity. If biospecimens or publicly available information recorded in such a way that the subject cannot be easily identified, subjects are not connected to the investigator and will not be re-identified. Number 3, the collection and analysis involving researchers' use of identifiable health information when the use of is regulated by HIPAA or the public health activities and purposes. And number 4, research information collected by or in behalf of a federal government using government generated or collected information obtained for non-research activities. Category number 5 includes those research and demonstration projects supported by federal agency or department and designed for study, public benefits, or service programs. Category number 6 includes those research related to taste and food quality. And over here, I'm gonna make a little stop over here, an observation. Be very careful, okay? If some of your students will do this and want to taste, to have a research in terms of tasting food and quality, please be very careful. Make sure that that you have available any and do you have available a doctor or a medical institution that you can conduct that that person in case of any prophylactic reaction to the food? They could be allergic to that, okay? Category number 7 include those storage or maintenance of personally identifiable or biospecific identifiable information for secondary research for which broad consent of the full board is required, meaning full board reviews. And category number 8 is secondary research involving the use of identifiable private information or identifiable biological samples for which the board consent was required. So as you can see, exempt is very, very specific. The next level of review is the third level of review is the expedited review. Expedited review involves a direct contact with human subjects and or identifiable data, and the risk is more than minimal. Expedited review protocols also include vulnerable populations, video or sound recording, and are evaluated, these protocols are evaluated by 1 or 2 members of the IRB committee. Evaluation could take anything between 5 and 8 business days. Expedited review protocols include 9 categories that the Code of Federal Regulation has established. Those 9 categories are: number 1, research using surveys, interviews, oral history, focus groups, program evaluation, human factor evaluation, and quality assurance. Category number 2 include clinical studies of drugs and medical devices. Number 3, medical devices research. Number 4, collection of data from voice, video, digital or image recordings made for research purposes. Next, investigation of drugs for which a new drug application is not required. Research on individuals or groups' characteristics or behaviors. Data collection through non-invasive procedure commonly used in clinical practices, excluding procedures involving X-rays or microwaves. Number 8 is the collection of blood samples by finger, heel, ear prick, or venipuncture. And the last category of the expedited review includes research materials involving data, documents, records, or samples which have been collected or will be collected solely for non-research purposes such as medical treatment or diagnosis. Last but not least is our 4th level of review, which is the full review. Full review involves direct contact with a human subject and identifiable data. The risk is greater than minimal and works with vulnerable population. The full review includes the whole 9 yards. Okay? Full review protocols are evaluated by 2 members of that committee, and the evaluation can take up to 30 business days. The determination of approval, disapproval, or request modifications are made by the board during a plenary session. And of course, we all try to avoid get into the full review protocols. In the States, we have had these kind of situations where I think it was in one of the Florida's campuses, a student wants to make a study. That study originally was classified as exempt. The reviewer says, you know what? No, this I recommend a reclassification. By the way, the reviewer is not the person that approved or disapproved. The reviewer usually is the person that recommends approval or modifications, request modifications, and or can request that reclassification of the study. Meaning that the reviewer says, you know what, this is not an exempt. This should be an expedited. And then we assign a second reviewer, a secondary reviewer. And if those two reviewers agrees that that study needs to go to full review, the study then is reclassified as a full review study. And let me tell you, when that happens, you have to start praying. Because usually when it gets into a full review, the study will be turned apart completely. It will take 30 days for evaluation, and they will, the committee will turn apart that study. And of course, the risk of non-approval, it's higher. And it has happened over here. The person who made the full review, the study wasn't approved by the IRB committee, and the student has to start again, all over again, because that study, they cannot do that study no more. So we try to avoid as much as we can those full review protocols. Any questions up to here? Other criteria for full review protocols include but are not limited to studies that take place internationally, particularly those with little or no provision for the protection of human subjects. Studies where information may be disclosed or required for legal reporting. I know it has happened also. We have one student that went to do the protocol was approved as an exempt. And out of the blues, that student encounters a situation that put the students a little bit on a burden, and they ask information or request assess from the IRB, and we need in that occasion we need to reclassify the study to a full review, and further actions were taken. It wasn't over here, it was in Puerto Rico, but further action were taken with that situation because the student find out a child abuse when they were doing the research. No, they find out child abuse due to alcohol use. So it is very delicate. Studies involving deception that may rise the level of risk to the subjects, and studies that fall under the jurisdiction of the Food and Drug Administration. Questions? So these are the 4 levels of review that the IRB will be using when evaluating the protocols from your students, okay? Once again, if you have any questions, let me just end up over here. Once again, if you have any questions in regards of a specific topic or a specific idea that you have for your class, feel free to contact me. You can send me an email or contact me. I will be more than happy to assist you. Any other questions?
Amilcar, I think that we will have a lot of questions in our way. So I suppose that we are going to contact you sooner.
Yes, and I do understand, Dr. Welke, that overall with doctor and now with the new doctoral, the DNP program, you will have a lot of situations and questions that you need to clarify.
Yes.
So feel free to contact me whenever you need me. You know you can do it.
Okay, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
And as well as any other of the professors. Do I have any professors from education or social work in the group? Thank you, Professor Pagan. Do I have any professors from the education department? Oh, that's great, Professor Pagan, Dr. Pagan. And yes, the university is trying to encourage the faculty to do, research. If you, as a faculty member, wants to do a research, you have to go through the IRB too. If you're gonna use our population or you're doing the research over here, okay? Critical thinking, education, and human potential. Yes, education overall, you will need that. Criminal justice, Professor Sharifi, that's how you pronounce that? That's how you pronounce your name, Professor?
Yes, Sharifi.
Sharifi. Beautiful last name.
Thank you.
I like it. Yes, criminal justice, it's very important. Usually, if you're gonna send your students to see a process in the court, feel free to contact me to determine if that should be deemed as a class exercise or as a research.
Okay, and how about
usually it should be deemed as a class exercise.
Okay, and how about if you're just teaching them how to do research?
Okay.
Where, you're just showing them how you put a hypothesis together, how to gather data, how to compare tables, things of that nature.
No, that's part of the class program,
Okay.
the class
Okay.
exercises. So that will not be classified as a research. The
Okay.
moment, even if you ask them to create a little questionnaire and make that little survey among themselves, that's not classified as a research. But
Perfect.
the moment you ask them to go to the community, okay, now we have to be careful because that could be a research.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing, it's very important for the students that gonna make any kind of research to be certified. And I already offered one of the series was how to get certified through City program. I believe it was series number 2. But if you need any other information, again, just feel free to contact me and I'll be more than happy to do it for you. Or at least coordinate for you. Any other questions? Dr. Welke, once again.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I get a question in terms of, for instance, business-related research. If I got my students that are doing some project and it's maybe related to marketing or a situation inside of a corporation or a registered entity, is that something by the fact that they are doing that interview to some of the executive or some of the personnel, or maybe if they work there and they work with the co-workers, the situation will require them
Sorry,
to be also
Professor,
certified? Yes.
I miss you.
I'm sorry, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, now.
Okay, yes. So if they go to a company and they request information on an interview with one of the executives, or maybe if they go and they ask questions to their co-workers because they happen to work in that place, does that count as a research in terms of like they being needed to be certified and to do the
I will
process?
say it's not a research because that's a class exercise and they will not use that to increase generalizable knowledge. But I will recommend for them to at least have the 3 basic certifications so they know specifically how to do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Again, that could be that could constitute basically class exercise. So it's not deemed research per se, but yes, it could be classified as a class exercise.
Yeah, my concern is basically with the final project, for instance, for the master degree or the research project that they do in terms of project management for the at least the business side of the class.
I'm losing you, Professor.
I'm so sorry, my signal is very bad. Yes, in terms of like the business research projects that they do, is it still considered a research for terms of the final project in management, at least? So that is what I am kind of questioning, that they need to present problem questions, they need to present some sort of solution, implications, resources. That is what I am kind of.
If they're gonna go and do an exercise, an interview, and it's for that, and they're gonna present that, they need to do, they need to go through the IRB because that will be counted as a research.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I am certified, and I was like, oh, I got my question in here, but like you made it possible for me to get that point. And I will try my best then to recommend my students that are going through that process to get the certification steps and make sure that like we invite you to the class so they can have a broader spectrum of the implications and the importance of having this certification for research purposes.
Of course, and I will be more than happy to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be more than happy to do that with them. Okay, now as I was saying at the beginning of the webinar, I have to fly to Puerto Rico due to a personal situation that I have. I lost two members of my family, so I have to fly down there today. But I will be back on Wednesday. Sorry.
So sorry to hear that. Like, my condolences, and then on behalf of our team, more than appreciated the fact that you're taking the time to do this. So sorry.
Thank you very much. I lost my elder aunt on Monday, and yesterday I lost a cousin. So
and our sympathies, and we are really sorry. Still, like this, you taking the time to share with us this knowledge and information makes a great deal of sacrifice, and thank you for that, for being a professional before being a family member, and thank you for sharing with us. We share our sympathies with you, and we hope that your family gets through the process and they get stronger and get peace.
It has been kind of difficult, but yeah, we're trying to, at least I'm gonna go down there and try to ease a little bit with my dad and my mom. But I really appreciate your concerns and your notes. So thank you very, very much for that. I really appreciate. Dr. Pagan, you're in Puerto Rico. That's great. Where in Puerto Rico? In San Juan. I'm gonna be in probably, oh, in Bayamón, the capital Bayamón. That's nice. That's very nice. I'm gonna be in Carolina and probably have to travel to Utuado for my cousin. Yeah. All right. Well, if there is any other questions that I can answer for you now. Once again, thank you very, very much for being with me over here. I really appreciate your condolences in terms of my loss, my family. Again, I'm going to be flying tomorrow to Puerto Rico, but I'll be back fortunately by Thursday next week. But if you need me, just give me a holler. I will have my phone down there so I can answer any questions through email. Okay, you can send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer for you. Dr. Welke, I was saying, if you need me or anyone need me for a class, just let me know a little bit with certain time, and I'll be more than happy to schedule that conference call. Okay?
Yeah, perfect, Amica. For sure, I will contact you. Do not worry about that.
Actually, Dr. Welke, I see 14 protocols that Dr. Cayafa sent me. I spoke to Dr. Cayafa today. I mentioned it that I have my situation. So I will be it will be a little bit delayed, but I promise you for next week, you will have them.
No problem. Take your time.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much. You have a blessed rest.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
And I don't know if this was asked because I lost the audio for a couple of minutes. For those that missed some of the previous trainings, I know we talked about that, and there was going to be a series of other trainings to make up those. Are those out yet, or what is the status on those?
No, what we are doing, it's and eventually I'll be probably next week once I can I'm back. I'm gonna be sending like a little survey to the academic directors for you to fill out which of the seminars you're missing, so we can make special groups to offer those seminars again. Remember, each one of these seminars you will receive a certificate of participation, which is granted you some professional development hours. That's why it's important, and that's another thing that you have to take it, because you do receive professional development hours for this. Okay, but if you can also ask to your academic director and ask him or her to write down your name, the ones that you're missing, and we will be collecting those information from them, and we will be announcing the new batch of webinars from the IRB. Do I answer your question, Professor Ortiz? Professor? It seems Professor Ortiz, I don't know if she can hear me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Okay. Any other question, comments? Okay, well, thank you once again. Thank you very, very much. Remember, I will be more than happy to assist you in anything that you might need. Feel free to contact me as soon as you need me, okay? You all have a blessed rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend.
Please stay
Thank you.
safe. Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.